3 years ago, I released my first ever track YouTube video entitled Sydney McLaughlin and Usain Bolt's journeys to the top are scarily similar. Oh, calm down, yeah? I was not comparing their greatness or their legacy. I was simply making observations that at each stage of their career, as a 15-year-old doing world youths, world juniors, breaking junior records, world champs coming second, winning Olympics, breaking world records. At that point in 2022, they had done that at the same stage, at the same age, pretty much the whole way through in their respective events, which I just thought was a cool observation, unique observation I wanted to share with the world. And at the time, it was very well received. Since then, critical thinking online has gone down significantly, so maybe it wouldn't be these days. But either way, I acknowledge that the two are not regarded in the same way. And there are two contributing factors to that: personality and the events in which they run. But at least one of the two, if not potentially both, are changing now for Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone. And that's what we're going to get into in this video. My name's Luca Kosiemi. You're watching Oko TV. Let's get straight into it. So Sydney McLaughlin is by far the greatest 400 meter hurdler ever. It's not even close. 2 Olympic golds, 1 world championship, 6 world records in the event. But not just that, she's taken almost 2 seconds off of the world record from when she first broke it, or of what the world record was when she first broke it. 2 seconds in a lap race is ridiculous. That all being said, I don't believe that her greatness in this event gets recognized beyond track and field relative to what she's actually achieving in it. And that's because athletes don't just get attention relative to how good they are in the sport. They get it based on how they carry themselves within that sport and what event they're actually doing in the sport. At present, there are multiple athletes who are more well known than her for their greatness in their respective events, sports, some of which have achieved more, some of which have achieved equal, some of which have achieved less, to be honest. And that's because athletic achievement does not directly correlate to recognition, nationally, internationally, globally. And as mentioned, there are 2 predominant factors in this, or let's say there's 3. There's the performance element, which Sydney has ticked the box. Then there's the personality element, and Sydney initially, early on in her career, was active on social. She was going live regularly on Instagram. She was like making funny videos and posting them on Instagram. Instagram was a different world back then, by the way, but she was doing all of that stuff, and then all of a sudden it stopped. And as she continued to grow on the track and break records and all of these things, not only was she not showing the fans that side of her, but even went on the track, achieving things that people dream to achieve, Olympic championships, world records, all of these things. She just seemed chill throughout. She was not celebrating them in the way that we typically see athletes celebrate achievements like that. At times she wouldn't celebrate at all. But the way that that humility came across, there's some people who identify with what she was going through and experiencing and loved that element of her. And then there were other people who, when they were seeing her break all of these records, win all of these medals, and she wasn't being, she didn't appear to even be like really excited or whatever, how we've seen other athletes in similar positions be, they were just like, come on, man, like wake up. Some of them became critical. They were saying we need a record-breaking athlete to be braggadocious. Let me check if that's the right word. Boastful or arrogant. Oh yeah, that's fair. To be braggadocious in order to get more eyes to the sport and all these kind of things, because that's the only way that track knew. And the only insight that we had prior to this year as to what that shift was she was open about her walk with Christ, her faith, her journey in that, and I guess how integral humility is as part of that. And she shared in the past elements of the fame that she didn't really like. But when she now went on the Ready, Set, Go podcast with my close personal friend, Justin Gatlin, I'm kidding, he's not my close personal friend, but he does follow me on Instagram at LukeOkoTV, which is the place to be to get more content like this. She expanded on what the reasons were as to why she pulled back from doing that stuff, and also expressed an interest to bring more of that personality back out, even though obviously she's a different person now to who she was as a teenager, but she wants to bring more of that out as her career continues.
In the beginning of my career, and this is kind of before my faith came into the picture, I wanted all of it. I wanted all the attention, all the fame, all the money, all the things. I was I was feeding off of that. That's why I was so big into the social media, so big into just wanting to feel that validation from people.
You would go online and be on there on live.
A lot, yeah.
Yeah, like interacting with your fans.
Yeah. I stopped the lives because someone literally pantsed me on live one day. So that's why I was like, all right, we're done. I think there was a period there where I was like, I need to just focus on what I'm trying to do. And I think I've reached a place where I feel like, okay, I feel like I'm in a good place. I feel like we've accomplished quite a bit. I can open up a bit more and share different sides of me. And I feel like I'm in a place career-wise and personally to where I feel comfortable doing that.
But that is just the second factor. Number one was performance. Number two is personality. But number three is the event, the sport that you're doing. I said the sport, like I'm Spanish. The 1984 Olympics was the first to feature the 400-meter hurdles for women. 84 years after the first one for the men. So the event is still relatively young. When you've got a young event, it doesn't hold the same prestige. It hasn't been maximized in terms of how athletes strategically approach it. And it means that not all the best athletes or the most equipped for that event are necessarily going to be doing it. So for a long time, you had athletes who were not elite 400-meter runners in terms of international level, Olympic level 400-meter runners doing the 4 hurdles instead. On the flip side, you had not elite 100 hurdlers doing the 4 hurdles instead. That doesn't mean that those athletes weren't good that were running it, but a lot of them just specialized in this event and didn't have the flat speed to compete internationally in sprint events. That was until Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone came around, because Sydney in high school and in college was elite relative to her age in the 100, the 200, the 100 hurdles, the 400, and the 400 hurdles and the long jump, but was elite international level in 400 and in the 400 hurdles even more so, as she made it to the Olympics at 16. Because she had that flat speed over the 4 and the elite hurdling technique, she was actually able to combine the two in a way that no one previously in the event had ever done, in which she was basically running a flat 400 with obstacles in the way that she was able to hurdle with an elite technique, which is why she was not only able to take the event and the times to heights that it had never seen before, but she changed the way that people had to race the event solely to be competitive. And that is now set in stone. She has taken the event so far that her place in the event's history will always be remembered, kind of similar to Dick Fosbury with the Fosbury flop in the high jump, except it's just not as drastic of a change. But because of the nature and the history of that event, it does not get the same attention as other sprint events, even hurdle events and distance events. Not just the attention from spectators, but the attention from athletes. Like a lot of the best athletes, like the fastest athletes, for example, are running the 400. Most people in Sydney's position with Sydney's speed as she was growing up probably would have just specialized in the 400. And they may not have necessarily had the technique that Sydney had as a hurdler, but she capitalized on the fact that she had both and changed the entire landscape of an event. Not many people could say that they've done that, but now she's done it all. She's taken the record forward so far. She's won 2 Olympic golds and has been a world champion. There's really nothing more to do in that event. And she's recognized this. Whether or not she will return to it, we don't know. But what we do know is that this year at the World Championships in Tokyo, she will be running the 400 meters. She did not enter the trials for the 400 hurdles, which she needed to do as she didn't have a bye, as she was not the world champion in 2023 because she did not run the race. This year, however, she ran the 400 at the US trials, ran a 48.9 and qualified for the US team. And if this strategy is executed correctly over the next 3 years, this is what could transcend her name beyond track and into conversations when people are talking about GOAT female athletes, particularly Americans. You think of your Serena Williams, Simone Biles, Ledecky. If she can execute this 3-year cycle correctly, she would have a legitimate claim in the all-time female American athlete conversation. Scrap American, actually. All-time female athlete or athlete conversation, because the 400 is a historic event. It's a well understood event. It's a prestigious event. And assuming this strategic change is permanent, her goal will be the 2028 Olympics, which will be occurring in Los Angeles, which is where she trains, and in America, the country which she represents. Being the poster girl for an Olympics can just absolutely change your career and how you're perceived and just fame, everything. And running in an event like the 400, and of course she'll be doing the relays, winning such a prestigious event will put her in that category, particularly because of everything that she's already done in the sport. Winning gold at the LA Olympics, a third Olympic gold in a row in a second event, will put her in those conversations. So that's it. That's the plan set in stone. Run the World Championships, win these World Championships, win the 2027 World Championships, win the 2028 Olympics in the 400 meters, and that's it. She can then ride off into the sunset, do whatever she wants to do. She could do a pole vault if she wants to. But it's just not going to be that easy, is it? Maybe if she was running, if her career was shifted a decade earlier, it would be a different story, because the times that she's running now, 48.7 PB, 48.9 season's best, that would have won every Olympic 400 meter women's race this millennium until the 2020s. Because in 2019, Salwa Naser ran 48.1 at the World Champs. At the 2021 Olympics, Shawnee Miller-Weber ran 48.3. And at the most recent Olympics, Marileidy Paulino beat Naser, running an Olympic record 48.1. These are the third and fourth fastest 400 meter runners, women, of all time, with only these two from the 1980s ever running faster. I'm just going to leave that there. And by the time LA 2028 comes around, who knows what the athletes are going to be running then. There's going to be new athletes coming. Naser and Paulino are just going to turn 30, which is still a prime age for certain athletes. This all means that in order to achieve her goal of winning an Olympic or world 400 meter gold, Sydney is going to have to run historically fast, probably one of the fastest times ever, just to win. In fact, objectively, when you factor out bias, national pride, what's the word for that? Patriotism, favoritism, all of those different things. When you look at it objectively, she is not the favorite to win a gold medal currently in the 400 meters. But this is what we love. As entertaining as it is when an athlete blows away the field in a record-breaking time, the most entertaining races, if you think of the last Olympics, if you think of in general, are the close ones where you don't know who's going to win until you get to the line, particularly when those races are ran at historic times. And what makes a race more likely to be ran at a historic time? When multiple all-time great athletes are running in the same race. That's why, for me, the most entertaining race that Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone has ever been a part of was at the 2019 World Championships in Doha, in which she ran a 52.2, a time that prior to that season would have been a world record, and she lost the race to Dalila Muhammad, who ran a 52.1 and had to run a 52.1 just to win the race. That is what track fans find entertaining, and that's what we will have to see now in the 400 meters. Now, all of that context means that in order for Sydney to win at either the World Championships or the Olympics, she is going to have to run a historic time to do it. And if she does that, particularly at the Olympics, home Olympics, in the 400 meters, that is what could cement her place beyond track and field when it comes to how people perceive and who people know in the conversations when it comes to the greatest athletes of all time. But do you think it can happen? Let me know in the comments, because in the next podcast episode, thank you for those of you who liked the last one, we will be discussing your comments, your opinions. So make sure to subscribe for that so that we can keep this conversation going. But for now, thanks for watching Oko TV. It's been real.